Welcome to a brand new perspective. It's the monthly mother-daughter download you don't want to miss.
Hi, welcome to a brand new perspective. I'm your co-host, Linda Bethay.
I'm your other co-host, Finley.
And today we're going to talk about brand new perspectives from Cannes. Every year I attend the Cannes Lions Festival for Creativity. And this year I had the privilege of bringing Finley with me. So Finn, for your first Cannes Lions, what did you think?
I'm not sure how it's considered a work trip, to be totally honest. Although I will say I wasn't really the one doing much of the work part of it. A lot of free food, a lot of free Diet Cokes. I was very content. But it was very different than what I think I was expecting.
It is a very fun work trip. Obviously, you're in the French Riviera, right, which is a very amazing place to be in June. And you're surrounded by some of the best people and companies in marketing, which is a really exciting place to be. And I think that the activations that they do on the beach get better year
That's
over
what
year.
I was expecting to be different. I don't know what I was expecting, but it kind of reminded me of a carnival. But the way everything's kind of in a line, it felt like I was going up to little fair booths, and it's you go to each one and make your stops, which I wasn't really expecting. I was also expecting a lot of it to be indoors.
Yes, well, you are in the south of France in June, and you get prepared to sweat.
I did not expect that either.
Sweat more than we've ever sweat before in our life. Every year it's hot there this time of year.
This time was exceptionally.
With the heat dome, I think they said that France was hotter than 99% of the globe while we were there. Yep, felt like that. But I think you're right. It is essentially a huge trade show in terms of the activations on the beach and what the different companies are trying to activate. So I know you walked up and down the boardwalk and attended different ones. Anything stand out to you?
Well, this is what's interesting to me is some of them made sense in terms of their activations. Some of them I feel like didn't, but they made me remember the brand that was doing it. So I feel like Pinterest made sense because the whole point of Pinterest is you're kind of getting your ideas together, and then their activation was, bringing these ideas to life. So theirs made sense to me. But for the female quotient, maybe I just don't really understand much about the brand, but it was the charm bracelet making, which I don't really feel like it relates to their brand that much. Maybe I just don't know it enough. But it was a memorable one for me. And when I see the charm bracelet, it's female quotient. So I feel like that's almost just as important as having it relate to your brand, is because even if it relates to your brand, it might not be memorable.
Yeah, I think the female quotient actually had one of the best.
They had a really great one
on the beach. They had really good speakers, amazing females from all different walks of life, all different industries. They had everyone from influencers to CEOs to athletes to celebrities. They had Oprah there, which was pretty incredible. So I think they had a really good speaking lineup, but I also thought that their engagement items were also really unique, not just the charm bracelets, but they had spinning the wheel of fortune. So that
that one was cool.
That, I think, was one of the most coveted prizes of the week, because you could win one of those handheld battery operated fans,
my gosh, yeah.
Which was much needed in the heat.
I did not win.
Or a selfie stick in case you ran into Oprah on the boardwalk and wanted to take a selfie. So I thought they had really good swag.
Good,
yeah. But obviously the intent of the festival is to celebrate some of the best creativity in the marketing industry. And I think a lot of times people forget that that's why we're there. You're so, distracted by all of the activations and the people and the food and the drinks that you forget that the reason we're there is to celebrate creativity and the impact that creative marketing can have on your brand or business. And so I wanted to talk through what I thought were two of the most amazing campaigns that were celebrated this year. And one is a brand that you're very familiar with and which is The Ordinary.
Oh, yeah.
So
skincare.
Yes. So the campaign that was featured at Cannes for them this year was called The Periodic Fable of Elements.
Okay.
Which is a play on the periodic table of elements. But what it was doing was it was highlighting all of the false science and false beauty claims that exist in the beauty industry today. So they created a periodic fable of elements of 49 buzzwords that are used by other companies in their beauty marketing. So things like elixirs or pore erasers or things like that. And they one by one basically dismantled these myths, these beauty myths that have no basis in science. And so I thought that was a really clever way to highlight what makes them different and discredit their competitors at the same time.
I was going to say it's very on brand for their brand itself. I own a couple things, and I think one of the reasons I like The Ordinary so much is they've always been very transparent about the ingredients that go into their products. I feel like that's what they're known for. Their bottles and their packaging is pretty minimalistic, and it's very clear what you're putting on your face. So to like go through and say, oh, well, this isn't exactly true, or say this is just a fancy word for this, I feel like it's very on brand with their whole message.
So I think that was definitely worthy of a Cannes Lion. The other brand, total opposite end of the spectrum, but we love food and beverage, is Kit Kat.
Oh,
So Kit Kat was at Cannes for the Kit Kat Heist. So I don't know if you saw this last spring, but essentially one of the trucks carrying Kit Kats across Europe crashed and thieves stole thousands of Kit Kat bars from the truck. And so it was called the Great Kit Kat Heist.
okay.
And so it was a moment that actually happened that Kit Kat, the brand, decided to capitalize on and turn into a marketing moment. And they did so by tapping into what has been a timeless campaign and tagline for Kit Kat. Kit Kat's all about take a break. So what they did was they basically went to social media and explained what had happened and said the thieves really made a break for it. And it became this whole thing that went viral, and they built upon it with layer after layer of a campaign. They had a stolen Kit Kat tracker, so you could track the Kit Kat bars across Europe as they were tracking them down. And so it just became this really fun moment that wasn't planned. It was something that happened that they capitalized on in a really fun and on-brand way.
Yeah, I didn't know about that, but it does sound, I think a lot of companies would, I don't know if I want to say panic if it was just one truck, but that's definitely something that a lot of companies wouldn't use to their advantage.
The other interesting thing, throughout the festival, there was much more focus this year on the creator economy. So every year at Cannes, people are talking about celebrities and influencers. But from my perspective, it felt like this was the first time that creators really took center stage. I felt like you couldn't walk down the croisette without seeing a creator filming something for YouTube or for social media or being stopped by people, recognizing them. And so did you see any creators or influencers while we were there?
Yeah, I wouldn't know what it's like compared to other years because it was my first Cannes, but I did see, he's a YouTuber, Jordan Matter. He's a photographer. He's pretty well known, but I think more so in the younger generations. Like I remember I used to watch him when I was like 12, and he has like a young daughter too. Well, she's probably around my age now, but I saw him on the boardwalk, and he's just somebody that I wasn't really expecting to be there,
Right.
which was kind of shocking for me to see him.
Yep. But I think
But-
YouTube actually had a really big presence this year because what they're saying now is YouTube's usually been known for the longer form content, right? You go there to watch longer form videos. But what they've found is they're winning now, not just in long form with brands, but in short form as well, because their content is more effective for brands and other platforms. So they're really trying to own both the short and the long form and really leaning into that short form.
Like the YouTube Shorts.
Exactly, with creators. So they're featuring a lot more creator generated content and partnering with brands to do so.
Interesting. I don't know. I'm not a huge YouTube user, to be totally honest, but I will say I've used YouTube for long enough to notice like the YouTube Shorts have become a bigger thing.
And I think a lot of the creators had speaking engagements on stage, which was new from past years. And some of the ones featuring creators and influencers were some of the most attended sessions. So I know one of my good friends, who's the CMO of Sephora, interviewed Alex Cooper on stage at the Female Quotient, and that was standing room only.
Yes.
I think she's done a fantastic job building her brand, starting with the podcast, Call Her Daddy, and everything else that she's done in that space. I know we went to UTA Beach to see one of your favorite contestants from Love Island speak on stage, which was also mobbed. She spoke specifically about how she became an influencer and how she partners with brands, which I thought was really useful content as a marketer. And I've been thinking about that since we got back from Cannes because we just started watching Love Island together this year. So you've been watching it for a few seasons now. I love reality TV, but it always resisted watching it. But you said we needed to have a summer show to watch
We did.
together. So I committed and locked in.
And I will say, she liked it more than she wants to admit.
I did. I loved it. But that's because I love reality TV.
Yeah.
What I think is interesting about Love Island that's different from other shows is you have to commit. It is aired every night with one night off. 2 nights off a week for 6 straight weeks.
Yeah.
So if you're invested, you're invested.
It is, yeah.
And you're committing, I think it's, over 30 hours of time over a 6-week period to follow these islanders on their quest for love. But what's really interesting to me as a marketer is how many brand integrations were featured in the show. So this year, CeraVe was one of the main sponsors of the bathrooms on the show. So for those that don't know, Love Island basically follows these islanders or contestants, the male and female, that go to live in a villa for 6 weeks and try to find love. And they're filmed 24/7.
Yeah, I think they get one off day, maybe a week, and the rest of the time they're always on camera. There's cameras everywhere, like even in the bathrooms. You can see there's like the CeraVe stuff everywhere, the Maybelline stuff, and it gets to the point that like the makeup that the Islanders bring, they have to put like tape over the logos.
No brands are allowed
besides
for the
those
sponsored
ones.
brands.
Same with like Poppi is like the thing, the drinks that are all in the villa, and that's why they have the special Love Island flavor.
And I love the story behind how Poppi became a brand partner, because I think it started 1 or 2 seasons ago where there was a very popular islander named Amaya, whose nickname...
Last season.
So season 7, whose nickname was Amaya Papaya.
Yes.
And so during that season, Poppi was paying attention to this pop culture phenomenon and, like many brands, trying to insert their brand into the cultural conversation. So what they actually did was they did a fake post where they imagined a flavor called Amaya Papaya and they posted it on Instagram.
Yeah.
It became their most liked post of all time. And people were dying for them to
I still think they should have made it
a reality. Well, so they did. So,
not for very long.
No, it was a limited time offer, but I think
I never got to try it.
What's amazing is they tested the idea on social media first. They saw the engagement and the love from the fans, and then they actually reached out to Amaya to create the flavor. And I think it was called Amaya's Island Colada or something like that. But they did launch it as an LTO, which was very successful. And then they continued the partnership this year with the custom can for the premiere of season 8.
Yes.
So it's now become a multi-season partnership versus a one-off pop culture phenomenon.
Yeah, which I will say they especially did a good job of just continuing the integration with Love Island versus focusing solely on Amaya and cutting everything off. But now they're like still continuing. So now the new can is just Love Island. It's not based on like a certain islander.
And I think that's an interesting perspective because a lot of brands try to partner with a specific influencer or a specific celebrity, but there's risk in that because what if that person does something that's not on brand or becomes controversial? Your brand's tied up in that. I think when you partner with a property like a Love Island, it's less risky, but it also gives you broader opportunities, right? And going back to your Maybelline example, I think that's a great partnership because so much of the focus throughout the show is on getting ready. They film them in that glam room, getting ready every morning and every evening. And there's a lot of discussion on social media about their makeup looks and about the products they're using. So it felt like a very natural partnership for Maybelline.
Definitely.
So back to what you said earlier about your take on Cannes and how it didn't feel like a work trip. You actually were there to work. So you actually had a speaking engagement at Brand Innovators during their retail forum. And you talked about how Gen Z has disrupted the shopping cycle.
Yeah.
So I thought we could dig into that a little bit and share with our listeners what you shared at Cannes.
Yeah, I know, especially like hearing stories from your childhood of like what you would go do with friends. I know you would go to the mall a lot and like that's how you would shop. And nowadays, a lot of my shopping is done online. I just placed 3 online orders, 2 of which I could have gone in person for. 1 of them I couldn't. But even though I can go in person, a lot of times I do tend to buy online and I do tend to go through social media platforms.
Yeah.
So a lot of times there will be like a link in a TikTok or I'll see something and the person who posted the video will be like, oh, this is from this brand. And so then I will go Google it, go find it, look at it, and I'll place an order online versus going in person and getting the traditional shopping experience. I think it's really changed to being more online for my generation.
Well, I think if you think about the full shopping cycle, right, it all starts with discovering brands. And I think the rise of AI has completely changed how people discover brands. I mean, to go back to, the dinosaur era when I grew up and went to the mall, if we found out about a brand, it was most likely through traditional advertising.
Like
there was
the newspaper or what? I don't know, like what traditional like TV show ads? I don't know.
Yes. So TV ads, newspaper ads, magazine ads, radio ads, right? That was the main marketing communication channel.
Was there no not Bluetooth, obviously, but
No, there was no Bluetooth.
Wait, if you didn't have phones, you couldn't do Uconnect for music. Oh.
So we listened to the radio.
There was
and you would
could you ever
tune-
connect like an iPod?
Those didn't exist.
What? When were iPods invented?
So you listened to the radio and you tuned
No, wait. I had an iPod. When were those invented?
Those were not in my childhood.
Okay, well, hold on. I can't remember the last time I listened to the radio.
Okay. So back to the point
Sorry.
around traditional advertising. And then if you're making a big ticket purchase and wanted to research it, there was something called Consumer Reports, which was a published magazine that gave ratings and reviews.
Oh, that was like an actual thing.
An actual thing that you had to read to do research before a big ticket item. So
big ticket item, like expensive?
Yeah.
Like TV?
Yeah.
Or something?
So that was how my generation learned about brands and did research on brands, which is very different than your generation. And so I've found some stats here that say basically that for your generation, 50% find new products through recommendations from friends, family, or colleagues. But nearly as many discover new items while browsing in physical stores. So the physical component is still important.
Definitely.
Traditional advertising isn't.
I will say there's also like a lot of times where if I am in a store, I won't buy it in store because I like to think about it, me personally. It's like I'll go home and I think about it. And so like even if I discover it in store, a lot of times I will end up buying it online. But I can't even remember the last time I discovered something that I purchased from a traditional ad that like we think of as an ad versus just word of mouth from somebody.
And the other really big difference for your generation that you mentioned earlier are social media platforms.
Yeah.
So 35% of Gen Z discover products through social media, which is nearly twice the rate of older adults. And 64% are using social media to research products. So I think
I'm a part of both of those percentages.
So if you're thinking about doing research, how does that happen? What do you do?
So, for example, I like doing my nails. I was going to buy gel polish the other day. So I went to TikTok and I Googled best gel polish brands. And I go through, I get
You didn't Google, you searched on TikTok.
I didn't Google. I don't know.
So you use social media.
I use social
as
media.
Your search engine. That is your first place to go.
That's the first place I went. I would scroll through, kind of see what people were saying, and then I would go onto Google and take a look at the brands for myself. But most of my opinion would be based off of what I got on TikTok.
So Google still played a role, but it was the influencers and regular people on TikTok posting content about the brands that formed your opinion.
Yeah, I think I follow a lot of nail techs on TikTok. A lot of them will do like my top 10 favorite gel polishes. And like I'll go and it'll be like a specific brand. And so then that gets me thinking, okay, this is a good brand to buy from. Versus I think if I were to just to go on Amazon, for example, or on even Google and just search gel polish, it might bring me the easiest accessible option or like the cheapest, but that's not necessarily the best one.
And the research says that a substantial portion of Gen Z, 85%, trust online user videos and online reviews as much as personal recommendations when considering a purchase.
Yeah.
So you trust that as your number one source before deciding to buy something.
Yes, I will say it's also helpful a lot of times with social media to not only just hear it from somebody else, but a lot of times if it's a video, like I can see for myself if it looks like it's a good product or not.
And you would trust that more than a brand-generated ad showcasing the product.
Yes.
Why?
Because the whole point of the brand is to try and get people to buy their product, even if their product sucks. They don't want to go out of business. The whole point is they need people to buy their stuff, so they're going to make an ad that's going to make it compelling, even if their product is horrible. Versus people, some of them, yes, they're paid promotions, sure. But I also know a lot of people who will not work with brands or companies if they don't actually like the product or like their values don't align with the company values. And then a lot of times it isn't paid ads and it's just people who do genuinely like the product. And so I feel like I trust that more because it feels more authentic versus a brand just trying to make money and
Okay.
sell
So
their
it's a
products.
mix of paid influencers and regular people.
Yeah.
Even the paid influencers you trust more than
Yes.
brand generated content.
Yeah.
And do you ever read ratings and reviews like on Amazon?
Yes, I
When-
do. I do. I definitely do. I would say Amazon is probably where I read reviews the most.
Mhm.
Amazon and Shein, although I try not to buy from Shein. Or Target sometimes, like if I'm online at Target. It's usually like the bigger corporations that sell a lot of different brands because there might be 5 different brands that sell a pretty identical shirt. So I'll look at the reviews to see which one might be the best one for me.
Mhm.
Versus like if I'm going for a smaller brand that has one location, I'm not going to like look at their reviews. I'm just going to say, okay, yeah, it's a good shirt.
So after you've done your social search, you've watched a mix of different videos and you've read some ratings and reviews, and you finally decide what you're going to purchase. How do you decide where you're going to purchase it?
I like to purchase online because I find it easier if I know it's something that I won't have a chance of returning. Like I was thinking about ordering gel polishes the other day. I'm not going to return those. That's something that I would way rather order online. I find it so much easier. A lot of websites now you can Apple Pay online. So literally like they scans my face and orders placed and it's literally the easiest thing ever. I can do all of that within 5 minutes from the comfort of my bed. If it's clothing and I don't know how certain things fit, sometimes I'll go to a store, but I honestly would way rather get the package, order it. It's easier to order. I can do it in 5 seconds. And then I kind of like the excitement of getting my package in the mail. It's like, ooh, like here's my fun little package. Like it gives me something to look forward to.
So it's the ease of the shopping
Yes.
experience, right? Making it as frictionless as possible, but then also the experience of unboxing. I know
Yes.
unboxing was a huge trend when
That
you
was
were
a
a
huge
kid.
thing.
And so I wonder if that's also now playing into this preference to order online and have that package to look forward to. Because I often have seen when you get a package in the
I
mail,
get so excited.
you get so excited, but then you'll call your friends and say, "Ooh, can I open this
yeah,
with you
I
and show
will.
you what I got?"
Especially if I'm talking to people and like I am telling them, oh, I really want to buy this. Like I will absolutely call my friends and be like, okay, I have to give you a haul of everything I just got. Here we go. I like show them everything.
So if
It
that's
becomes kind of a group experience.
And so if that's part of the shopping experience, does it matter how it's packaged and what that unboxing experience is like?
Yes and no. I think like I wouldn't say the Amazon packages are cute by any means.
They're very utilitarian.
Exactly. But they get the job done. They get your stuff to you. Yeah, if I got a cute little box and it was wrapped in like a pretty bow or something, yeah, I'd be like, oh, like that's really cute. And maybe it'd be a little more excitement just because it's a cute package. But like at the end of the day, the excitement is about what's in the box versus the box itself.
Okay, so packaging doesn't matter as much. What about a personalized shopping experience? Do you like when a brand gets to know you and your preferences and will recommend things and or customize them just for you?
Yes, I think brands getting to know you can be difficult, especially I know from working in retail and also just being a retail shopper. I don't like when retail workers are pushy, but from working in retail, I kind of know that that's part of the job. So
So what's the right balance?
I think you can't be too pushy, but I also know I had somebody come into the store when I was working the other day and say, hey, I'm looking for a white blouse that can go with a lot of different bottoms and it's not too fancy. They showed me the one that they were looking at and asked me if I could bring them some other options. So I showed them a couple other options. I didn't bring them the entire selection of white shirts that we have. That's overwhelming. But I'm like, hey, I think these might be some good fits. I'm saying, well, what is this white top for? If they say for work, I might say, if you're looking for things for work specifically, we have this piece that a lot of people love for work. We had a bridal party come in the other day. She wanted only a white dress. we have a yellow dress in store that's been very popular with the bridal parties. I showed it to her. She said no, 'cause she only wanted white, but I thought it was worth showing to her because it's been very popular with that crowd. And so I think it's getting to know what customers are coming in your store.
You've honed in on something really important. A lot of people shop by occasion. You mentioned I'm attending a wedding or I have a work event. I think the same is true in other categories. And to bring this full circle back to the Maybelline Love Island partnership, I think they did a really good job of packaging up different Maybelline products into looks for certain occasions.
Yeah.
And what they did was, as you're streaming this on Peacock, if you stop the stream, right, because you have to go refill your bloom or go to the bathroom, it actually had a shoppable ad that popped up using products
I didn't know that.
from the show.
I don't pause the show very
that said,
often.
hey, for your fun in the sun beach look, click here. And you could actually then click to purchase, which is using the occasion from the show, the products from the integration with a frictionless experience.
Yeah.
Fully close the loop, which I think is brilliant.
I will say, I don't know if you knew this. This isn't just for like the Maybelline, but I forget if it is on their app, the Love Island app, and it's also on their website where you can shop by Islander if you like a certain look. So like I've found if I'm like, oh, that dress is adorable, where's that from? I can go onto the website, click the Islander who is wearing it, and find it, and then I can find out where it's from, and there's a link that'll take me exactly to where it's from, and I can literally order it while I'm sitting watching the show, which I think that's been very nice, because I think a lot of the things that are noticed, at least about the female Islanders, are the makeup looks that they do, and like people get compliments on like the lashes or the hair and the outfits.
Yeah.
So being able to just click a couple buttons on my phone and find everything that I want and links to the platforms is super easy.
Yeah, you're going straight from inspiration to purchase in just a few clicks. Which, again, for your generation, the ability to discover something while you're watching the show and then have that seamless purchase experience is really important.
Yes.
So any other thoughts on Gen Z shopping habits and how they've changed how you discover and purchase brand?
I don't want to say that we are lazy. However, the thought of me getting into my car, driving to a store, and shopping, I think it's also just shopping alone in person, I feel like is less fun.
You want it to be a more social experience.
Yeah, so if I do go in person, I'd like to do it with somebody versus at home. A lot of the times when I'm online shopping, it's while I'm doing something else. Like I'll have a show on and then I'll also be online shopping.
You are the true
I
generation.
Yes. I'll have like 4 screens going at once sometimes, but
yeah, you're often on FaceTime with a friend.
I have a FaceTime,
while watching a show,
on
TV.
Some sort of shopping on a computer. I like to think that at least if I'm watching a show, I'm already kind of occupied. I'm not like alone in the shopping world.
Awesome. Well, I know that brand innovators really appreciated you sharing these perspectives with their audience. I heard from one attendee afterwards that they pay really good money for these insights with their market research firm. So it was great having an actual Gen Z there to share their perspective. And that's the whole point of this podcast, right? To share different perspectives from a CMO and a Gen Z. So I was really glad you got to experience Cannes with me this year. Thank you.
I'd like to go back.
All right. Let's
next year.
On the books for next year.
Yeah, I'd like to go back. That was fun.
Awesome.
Hopefully less hot, but
let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. That's all for today.
Thanks for listening to this episode of A Brand New Perspective.